السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم، وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي وبعد. Alhamdulillah, we give thanks and praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for bringing us together once again to sit in such a blessed gathering to study His word. We pray that He will bless our gathering and bless our deliberations, inshallah, and mention us among the heavenly hosts. We went up to ayah 53 in our last session. So inshallah we'll continue from ayah 54 today, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وقال الملك ائتوني به أستخلصه لنفسي فلما كلمه قال إنك اليوم لدينا مكين أمين. قال اجعلني على خزائن الأرض إني حفيظ عليم. وكذلك مكنا ليوسف في الأرض يتبوأ منها حيث يشاء نصيب برحمتنا من نشاء ولا نضيع أجر المحسنين ولأجر الآخرة خير للذين آمنوا وكانوا يتقون. English translation reads, and the king said, bring him to me that I may attach him to my person. Then when he spoke to him, he said, verily this day you are with us high in rank and fully trusted. Yusuf said, set me over the storehouses of the land. I will indeed guard them with full knowledge. Thus did we give full authority to Yusuf in the land to take possession therein when and where he likes. We bestow our mercy on whom we will, and we make not to be lost the reward of the doers of good. And verily the reward of the hereafter is better for those who believe and used to fear Allah and keep their duty to Him. The narration continues of the story of Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam. And just reminder that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says at the beginning of this surah that نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ أَحْسَنَ الْقَصَصِ. We shall relate to you the best of stories. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refer the story of Yusuf from Ahsan al-Qasas. Is the best. Not just a good story. It's the best. And it is true. And this story of Yusuf is found in all three religions. It's found in Islam and in the Quran. And so it's found in the Christian scriptures. And it's found in Jewish scriptures. So that the Quran talks about Yusuf, and the Bible talks about Yusuf, and the Talmud also speaks about Yusuf. The story might vary slightly here and there. It varies. But they all speak about Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. Even though the Quranic presentation, elevates it to a higher standard than is found in the other books because of the Quranic understanding or presentation of the prophets and messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, after the king invited him and he was able to have his name cleared, and he came out as a shining example for everyone, and respected by all for his fortitude and his commitment and his trustworthiness and his honesty and what have you. The king said to his people, bring him to me. The first time when the king sent for Yusuf and said, bring him to me, Yusuf said, wait, go ask him about, investigate this matter. This time now the king is 100% convinced about Yusuf, go bring him to me now. So now he comes for the second time, he orders his people to bring Yusuf, bring him to me. But in this instance now, in the first instance, he says, bring him to me. In other words, I want to talk to him. That the first time. This time he's saying, bring him to me. Astakhlishu li nafsi. I want him to make him as my close, advisor. I want to make him close to me. I want to bring him close to me. That means that he's predicating us what has been established before him. Was established before him. Bring him to me so that I may attach him to my personal service. I want him in my personal service. I want him next to me. So he doesn't just want to talk to Yusuf now, like in the first case. Here, I want him to be on my side. I want him to be by my side. And so they bring Yusuf. The king, once he realized the full innocence of Yusuf and the quality of his character and the level of his intelligence and his moral rectitude, he decides not only to release Yusuf from the prison and set him free, he wants to appoint him as his personal advisor and counselor. He wants to appoint him as his personal advisor and counsel. And so he brings Yusuf. And Yusuf came and he talked with Yusuf. So he had to talk with a discussion with Yusuf. Right? He had a discussion with Yusuf. So like imagine his backward and forward is, how are you able to explain things in such detail? How were you able to understand this? How were you this and that? Backward and forward, there had to be a discussion. Mean they had a discussion. They had a discussion. He had a full discussion with Yusuf. And he's talking to Yusuf, and Yusuf is breaking things down to him, probably elaborated further on his dream, giving more ideas, more points, giving more recommendations, whatever the case might be. But they had a serious discussion with Yusuf. They had a serious discussion with Yusuf. And so from the answers of the Yusuf interpretation and discussion, the insight and advice and so on that is given to him, and this was all predicated on the testimony that he had before from his servant about Yusuf and how they observed Yusuf and what he was and all that. So all this for the king now, the king is completely enthralled with Yusuf. With Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. And so after this face-to-face discussion with Yusuf, he says to Yusuf, إِنَّكَ الْيَوْمَ لَدَيْنَا مَكِينٌ. So he didn't make the statement when Yusuf came to him. He made the statement after his discussion with Yusuf. Because here all this stuff is at first his servant, his butler, right, who had freed from the prison. He, after he remembered about Yusuf, then the king had a dream and he remembered, he talked to the king about Yusuf. Yusuf is this, that, and so I can get the thing. So let me go see him. So he had a testimony from his advice, from his butler about Yusuf. Then he goes and Yusuf gives him the interpretation of the dream and give the kind of advice he needed to apply the dream. And he come back now, he accepts it because it is reasonable, it sounds logical, it sounds insightful. Right? And so he's impressed. He's impressed with Yusuf with this. And then when Yusuf tell him that you investigate the matter. You investigate this matter here. Because this happened, and this matter was an unresolved matter. Resolve this matter, otherwise I'm not coming. And so Yusuf sent him on the path, so he goes and he investigates, and he sees Yusuf come out top. His character, everything. And so now he's ready to embrace Yusuf. You don't just want to set him free, you want to embrace him. Come, astaghlishu li nafsi. I want you with me. So Yusuf come and he sat down and had discussion with Yusuf. He's talking to Yusuf because he has admiration for Yusuf. He wants to learn from Yusuf. So he's discussing, he has a good discussion with Yusuf. And when he's satisfied, he says, from today, from this very day, from this day, you have a high rank with us. You have a high rank with us, and you are fully established and fully trusted by me. You got a place with me. You have a place with me, and I trust you implicitly. I trust you implicitly. And so he now wants Yusuf to be with him. He wants Yusuf to be there. So Yusuf, right, you have special rank. You have special rank with me. Ladayya, he says. With me. You got special rank with me. Right? And your status is established and you are trusted. Listen, I trust you. And so once he's established this, he's elevated Yusuf to this standard and demonstrated his total confidence in Yusuf, Yusuf realized that he can go another step. Yusuf realized now he can go another step. He takes another step. And he says to him, Ij'alni ala khaza'in al-ard. Appoint me over the storehouses and treasuries of the earth. Appoint me over the storehouses and treasuries of the earth. And so Yusuf only made this request after the king declared his admiration and trust for him. And so Yusuf requested that the king appoint him over the storehouses and treasuries of the land. This, in other words, to implement what we talked about, I need to be in charge. To implement and receive and reach the conclusion and results that we talked about, I had to run it myself. You had to put me in charge. And so Yusuf didn't just ask for the position, he asked in the position based on what they had discussed with the king. And what the king, how the king responded to him and accepted of him. So he's not just like putting his foot in his mouth. And then on top of that, he is not only requesting the position, but he is testifying to possess the necessary qualifications for such a job. He's testifying to possess the necessary qualifications for such a big position to control the storehouses of the land. He says, Inni hafidhun alim. Inni, verily, I am hafiz and alim. The two important, necessary qualifications for such a big position. Hafiz. Hafiz is superlative of hafiz. Right? He is not just hafiz, but hafiz. Right? Hafiz means that he is, or hafiz is a keeper, is a good keeper. Like the one who memorizes the Quran, right, and keeps it in his heart and guards it in his heart, is called hafiz. Why? Because he has stored the Quran in his heart and he guards it there. He guards it there. Right? He has become one of the guardians of the Quran. Allah has appointed that person as one of the guardians of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikra. Verily, indeed, is we who set down this reminder. But inna lahu lahafidhun, and indeed we shall be its guardians. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not come down and guard the Quran, but he appoints guardians. And this one, the best guardian is a hafiz, because you cannot, I mean, if you put a guard, you put it on a book there, and you put a guard there, you can come and kill the guards and still go and take care of it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the guardians of the Quran that the Quran is stored in their hearts. The guardians of the Quran is stored in their hearts. So it's not possible to destroy it, because you got to kill the people to destroy it. You got to kill them. Without digressing too much, and said that when the British, the colonialists, conquered India, when they came and they conquered India, India, of course, was ruled by the Muslims at that time, because when the Muslims went to India, they was the first people to be able to unify India under one rule. Prior to Muslims going to India, India was a bunch of, used to call it Rajasthans. You know, this one a Raj, and that was a Raj, and that was a Raj. King, I think Raj is king, right? King, Raj means king. Little kingships all over the place. And they used to be fighting each other all the time. This one trying to take over one territory and so. So that's how India was. For generations, that's what it was. The Muslims came and they were able to unify the whole of India under the rule of the Muslims. Right? And the Muslims ruled India for a couple of centuries. Right? So when the British came, the Muslims were ruling India, were the rulers of India. All right? That's why, of course, the British, the colonialists, they didn't like Muslims. That's why when they left India, they gave India to the Hindus, as opposed control of India to the Hindus, as opposed to the Muslims who were ruling it before, because the Muslims, you know, fought them continuously, and that's history. But when they came to India, and I think it's who it was? Kitchener. Lord Kitchener was the general who took over India. And he said that Kitchener, because the Muslims continued to fight with him, Kitchener decided he can destroy the Quran. He said, in this book, just like Gladstone said about the Muslims in Egypt, Gladstone said that Gladstone was the prime minister, and Gladstone said, as long as the Egyptians got this book, he stand up in parliament and he says, as long as the Egyptians got this book in their hand, we will never be able to rule them. We will never be able to rule them. So the idea was, we got to take this book out of their hands. We got to take the book out of their hands. All right? Which they did. All right? Which they did. They didn't take the Mus'haf out of their hand. They left the Mus'haf in their hands, but they took the Quran out of their hands. So they never, they were able to do that. So Muslims, that's a whole long story. I don't want to go into that one. That's a different story altogether. So he started to kill Muslims. That means he started to burn Qurans. And he would gather the Qurans every time and beat them and burn them. And he continued doing this. Till some scholars, the ulama got together of India, got together and they made a delegation and went to Gladstone. Not Gladstone, to Kitchener. And they took with them some Hafal, young boys. And he took them to him. And they said, look, Kitchener, if you want to destroy all the Muslims, you are quite free to do that. You can burn every Muslim you can find. You can destroy every Muslim. There's no problem. You can destroy all of them. But if you destroy every Muslim, tomorrow we can reproduce it word for word. We can reproduce it word for word. He said, what you mean? He says, for you to destroy, you can destroy the Mus'haf, but you cannot destroy the Quran. Because for you to destroy the Quran, these young ones, they're all Hafiz. They all have the Quran stored here. So you had to kill all of them, and there are millions like this. So you had to kill all of them. So Kitchener realized the futility of his action of burning Mus'haf, and so he declared not to do it anymore. So he stopped burning Mus'haf because he realized it don't make no sense. Because the Hafiz of Quran, he's a guardian of the Quran, he keeps the Quran here. He's a guardian of the Quran. They take it wherever they go. So that when our forefathers was brought from the colonialists here to the shores, to these western shores in the Americas, the Hufad who came with them, because there were some scholars among them who were half of the Quran. They brought it in their hearts. They brought it with them. And so, there's so much historical records that is coming up where they have different scripts from the Quran that were handwritten. Actually, in Jamaica, there was one that was one slave wrote the entire Quran from memory. Wrote the whole thing from memory. And there's the other places, Bahamas and different places, they'd have scripts where they would write different sections of the Quran and share it among themselves secretly. All right. So you can't destroy the Quran because the Hufaz, the guardians that Allah point over the Quran, doesn't keep it in a book, they keep it in the heart. Right? So there's a Hafiz who safeguards, and is one who is a storekeeper, one who is a guardian, one who is a caretaker or a custodian. And that's a great honor. That's why you honor the Hafiz, because he's a custodian of the Quran. Hafiz is a custodian of the Quran. That's why he's given a special title and he's treated with respect. Why? Because he's a custodian of the Quran. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all the Hufaz of the Quran and help us also to be like them. And so he says, "Any hafizun, I am a good guardian and custodian, and I'm one who is mindful and attentive in fulfilling my role as a guardian." And this, you need somebody like this to be in charge. So not only am I Hafiz, but I'm Alim. I'm Alim. Right? Alim means I am full knowledgeable and cognizant and well informed of the duty and role of such a custodian, what it will take, what it needs to do. Right? I'm fully aware what it needs to do, or what we need to do, how to fulfill the role and take care of the affairs of this. And of course, the king paid testimony because he's impressed with what Yusuf said in the first one. With his discussion, he realized that not only is he's trustworthy, but also he has knowledge and skill because of the advice that he gave him. And so the king, based on his knowledge of Yusuf and his interaction with him, he did not hesitate to acquiesce to the request of Yusuf. And so the king accepted Yusuf. So Yusuf was given authority over the land and its stores. He was given authority over the land and its stores. And so from this, not only is that, but now Yusuf is answerable only to the king. He's answerable only to the king. The only body above him in the country is the king. He's not answerable to nobody. People are answerable to him, but he's not answerable to nobody but the king. That is the position that he elevate Yusuf this. And so this was able to open the door to Yusuf to fulfill his role. He was able to open the door for Yusuf to fulfill his role. And that's, from this we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he elevated Yusuf. He elevated Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam because of his patience and fortitude. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevated Yusuf. He elevated him. He brought him out of the well and established him in the house of the Aziz. He take him out of the well and he establishes him in the house of the Aziz. The Aziz was the minister of finance or something like that for the king. Right? He was like the minister of finance for the king. And so he takes Yusuf from the well that his brothers threw him down the well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take him from the well and put him in the house of the Aziz in Egypt. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when the wife of the Aziz calls him to be thrown into the jail, into the prison, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he takes him from the prison and establishes him in the house of in the palace of the king. He takes him from the prison and establishes him in the palace of the king. And he brings him from being just a regular cellmate in prison. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevated him to be the personal advisor. Personal. So he's not just in the palace, but he's personal advisor to the king. Personal advisor to the king. And so he's moved now, Yusuf, Allah will move Yusuf from being a dejected slave, right? A dejected slave, one that people condemn because they believe the woman's argument, accusations against him, some of them, and his character. He moved from that position of being a dejected slave to master over the land. Having mastery over the land, and from being a disgraced servant to the moral authority, to the moral authority, to the moral authority in the land of Egypt. This is the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So no matter no matter how low they put you, no matter wherever you are, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can elevate you from there and put you to the top. We should always remember that. Allah can take you from the bottom and He can put you from the top. And just like He can take you from the bottom and put you to the top, He can take you from the top and put you in the bottom. He can take you from the top and put you in the bottom. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teach us to say in Al Imran. Qul Allahumma, say, O Allah, Malikul Mulk, owner of all sovereignty. Tu'til mulka man tasha. You give sovereignty and authority to whom you will. Wa tanzi'ul mulka mimman tasha. And you take and remove sovereignty and authority from whom you will. But to izzu man tasha, and you elevate whom you will. But to dhillu man tasha, and you abase and disgrace whom you will. Biyadikal khair, because in your hands is all that is good. Innaka ala kulli shay'in qadir. Indeed, you have power and authority over everything. That is the essence of Islamic political theory. When you study political science, one of the issues of political science, when those who went through this stuff in college, one of the issues is sovereignty. One of the issues they discuss is based on the concept of this that divides people in different ideological spheres, socialists or capitalists or whatever. This concept of sovereignty. Islam, in one verse, Islam lays out a whole understanding of the reality of sovereignty. Sovereignty belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It remains to Almighty God. For He is the one who created, the one who made stuff. He's the one who brings everything from non-existence to existence. Because that is what create means. Create means to bring something into existence from nothing. And no one has that ability. No one has that ability or power to bring something from nothing besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why men are not creators, we are inventors. We are not creators, we are inventors, because to produce something, we got to have something. You got to give us something. Give us something to work with, and then we can produce something from it. So we take one thing and produce something different from it. You give me some raw material, give me some wood, I'll make a table for you. I'll make a chair. I'll create an electron. I can make something nice. I'll make a ship. But you got to give me some raw materials. I can make a building. I can make a rocket and go up in space. I can do all this stuff. And this is the ingenuity that Allah has given to the human being to use to produce stuff. But you got to get them raw materials. You ain't getting no raw materials, you can't produce nothing. So He's not a creator, He's an inventor. he used raw materials to produce or create new things. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he wants to bring something, create something, make something, he does not need anything, because his creative genius, إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون. His creative genius is that when he desires it, when he wants a thing, he just say be, and it is, so that he commands things into existence. He commands things into existence. This is the reality. This is the reality. So this is, we can understand this. This is one of the important things, one of the important lessons we learn from the story of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. That no matter where they put Yusuf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take him, put him high. Where we got him, Allah take him, put him high. And where Allah put him higher. And each time, Allah put him higher and higher and higher. You can't put down the one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, elevates. You can't do anything with that. إن ينصركم الله فلا غالب لكم. When Allah helps you, then nobody can overpower you. Allah will always bring you out. That's why we always need to put our trust and dependence on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Put our trust and dependence on Allah. Whoever put their trust and dependence on Allah, Allah suffices them. Allah suffices them. When you put your trust and dependence on Allah, because Allah subhanahu has power over everything. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought Yusuf out. He bring him up and he elevate him high. And so in this, before we go forward to the other ayah, inshallah, there's just a couple of points I want to raise in relation to this. There's a whole long lot of discussion, a lot of books of tafsir, right? A whole lot of concerning this topic here, the statement of Yusuf, قال جعلني على خزائن الأرض إني حفيظ عليم. Appoint me as the custodian over the stores of the earth, for I am a trustworthy and knowledgeable custodian. And they have a lot of discussion about it. All the books of tafsir, Tabari, Al-Mufassirin go on, talks a lot about it. Zamakhshari, all of them talks. There's a lot, you can see you're going to have a little bit of talk on it. And there's a lot of discussion about this. And there is a lot of questions that have been raised, put them forward, and they discuss, points of Islamic fiqh and Sharia and all of that from these things. Some of the points that is raised is that here Yusuf, he acts for position. He acts for position. So the question is raised and discussed that, why did Yusuf seek power? Why did Yusuf seek power? And is it permissible to seek power and position? Right? Because we know in Islam that the one who acts for the position is the first one you reject. The one who acts, here, make me the boss. It's the first one you go by the side, because when you got alternate, you make ulterior motives. Then you ask for the position. If you understood the gravity of the position of authority, if you understood the gravity of it, he would not seek position. So the ones who push themselves up is the one that you put aside. That is not an understanding, because leadership and authority is not a privilege in Islam. Leadership and authority in Islam is not a privilege. It's not a privilege. It is a responsibility. It is a responsibility. So you got to produce. Right? Yeah, in the Western, in our environment, in our society in which we live, leadership is a position of privilege. It is a position of privilege. So the leader is appointed, so you should serve them. So the people serve the leaders. So you appoint all people as leaders, politicians, me as leaders, and what have, and we serve them. We, the people, serve them. They have the authority and the power over you, and we serve them. In the Islamic understanding of leadership and authority, the leader is the servant of the people. The leader is the servant of the people. He has to serve them. Right? He's supposed to serve them, not they serve him. But we gotta flip the script in this part of the world. All right. So there's an issue that there is, and a lot of discussion surrounding it. That here's Yusuf, he's seeking position. He's appoint me as the custodian. And so he's seeking position. He's asking the and is this permissible? Another issue, I mean, we sort of like discuss some of the general points, and then we see if we can go through some of them. Another point that is raised by them is why did he offer his services to the king? Why did he offer his services to the king? Right? Because the issue of is a non-Islamic government. Right? It's a non-Islamic government. King, the Egyptians were idol worshippers. Right? The king were, and his people, the Egyptians, were known idol worshippers. Yusuf, in the prison, he already declared his position as a prophet and inviting the people. He already established this in the prison. He's offering his services to work for the king. This an Islamic system. So the question is it permissible to work? Right? To work, and take positions, and not just work, work with Lord, take positions of authority and control. God is present authority in an non-Islamic government. Can you be appointed minister of finance? Or can you take a position of minister of education stuff in a non-Muslim government? This issue is raised. All right? And if you're looking at it from this point, it's saying that, you're not supposed to support un-Islamic systems. So taking positions and stuff like that in non-Muslim system is like promoting and supporting that system. Right? The stuff that these people discuss is serious. Right? When you read these books, there's a whole lot of stuff. I mean, you read these books, you sit down and read their books on this on this subject. These people go deep. in discussing this stuff. All right? You know, so taking a position like this, a position of authority, will this be considered, you know, supporting the disbelievers? Will we consider, can we consider this, you know, and him being an established prophet, we believe him to be a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala representing Tawheed. How then his role as a prophet representing Tawheed and recognizing Allah as the sole authority, right? How does that reconcile with his serving under a non-Muslim king who the people look to like if he's a god? So they had all the, I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff. I don't remember a lot of this, some of the points. I don't remember some of the points, you know, that they raise in relation to this. Right? And I don't think we're going to get through all them because anything is connected, some of the answers and stuff is connected to the following ayahs that come, the other two ayahs that come after, you know, that is there. The following ayah clears up some of it. But the reality is that Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, it is very clear, the Quran is established and it's very clear that Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, yes, first of all, he was a messenger, he was the prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was one of Allah's prophets, illustrious prophets. He was. And we confirm that and we believe that. He was one of the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we believe that his role was bringing truth and guidance to the people of Egypt who were idol worshippers. All right? If you remember the story of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, right? And when Musa was before the Pharaoh, right? And it tells us, وَقَالَ مُؤْمِنٌ يَكْتُمُ إِيمَانَهُ. There was a believer who concealed his faith, who is from the family of Pharaoh, who became a believer. He kept his faith secret, but he was debating Pharaoh. He was in the court. He's one of the courtiers. He's a family of Pharaoh, and he's one of the courtiers, and he's debating Pharaoh over Pharaoh's position to Musa, threatening to kill him and all of that. And there's a whole discussion going backward and forth between the mu'min yaktumu imanahu, the believer who conceals his faith. There's a whole discussion between him and Pharaoh. And it's recorded in the Quran there. And one of the points he says, you know, وَلَقَدْ كِجَاءَكُمْ يُوسُفْ مِنْ قَبْلُ. He said Yusuf did come before and tell you the same thing Musa is talking about. He did come, but y'all forget all about that. Yusuf comes up. Musa is nothing strange with Musa. Yusuf came before, and he reminded them of Yusuf of being one of the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just like Musa. He connected Musa to Yusuf alayhi salatu. Right? So we understand and we accept Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam as one of the illustrious prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's first point. And we accept his trustworthiness and his honesty and his moral fortitude. We accept all this. So we know that Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam was not seeking power for himself. We know that he was not seeking power just to be in power. Right? He was not seeking power just to be in power, or seeking it just for his own benefit. All right. So when he makes this decision would be in accordance with his mission and his role as a prophet. All right. And so it's very clear that in situations like that, definitely yes. Because if Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam did not take the position of being, the khaza'in al-ard, over the treasures of the earth, what would happen? First of all, the king had nobody who even understand the context. There was nobody who even understand the context or the magnanimity of the role or responsibility to manage the stores for the next 7 years to make sure that there is, the many family does come, that people are destroyed. And people who don't have the moral authority that Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam have, they definitely can start discriminating and they're not even just in dealing with the people. And so much concerns. And so Yusuf, there was nobody to place that role but Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, because he brings more benefit and more good and prevents harm. So definitely, Yusuf as a prophet, in that circumstance, understand the context, this was the best for him to be able to play that role and to fulfill the role. So he was not seeking power or authority for himself. He was seeking to make sure that justice and fair play and rightness be established. Because once once the king demonstrated his acceptance and recognition of Yusuf's qualities and elevated him to the position that he elevated him to be his personal advisor and to be on top. He only answers to Yusuf, only answers to him. This is an ideal opportunity. Here Yusuf can see the door open. This is the door that Allah presents before him. This is the door now that he can become the moral authority in the land. He can become the moral authority in the land, because it's only there that he can set the standard from that position, understanding the Egyptian society that is ruled top down and not bottom up. Right? And this is the case in most African kingdoms. This is mostly, if you look at the history in Africa, it's always from the top down, it's not bottom up. Not bottom up. Like in the Arabian Peninsula, Islam grew from the bottom up. When you go to most of the places where Islam went, it went from the bottom up. But if you go to the spread of Islam in Africa, it always came, most of the time, it came from the top down. It was the kings and rulers, of the Ghanaian and Songhai and these empires that became Muslim first. And then Islam went down to the people. Read the history. It start top down rather than bottom up. And it was easy to spread that way. Because once the ruling clan became Muslim, right, and established Islam, it means that any tribe after that, when you become Muslim, you automatically is connected to the ruling clan. You become brothers. Because in the mu'minuna ikhwan. So it's a step up for you. So it's easy for the tribe to become Muslim. Islam spread much from top down in Africa as opposed to bottom up. If you look at it, when you read the history, all right? When you examine the history, all right? Sunni Islam from the Mali, from the Ghanaian part, you know, start from the bottom, from top down. They were the rulers, right? So they really, you know, the Soundgate Empire. If you look at these empires of Africa, as I said, the rulers, Islam went down. So that's the situation of Africa. So Egypt is part of Africa. You know, I don't care what people say. They want to make Egypt part of the Middle East. I don't know what that means, but Egypt is part of Africa. This whole construct that Egypt is not part of Africa was created by these, you know, colonialist people, because they don't believe that people of color could have built a civilization like Egyptian civilization. That's why when Napoleon, right? When Napoleon got to Egypt and he saw the pyramids and he saw the Sphinx, he blew the nose off the Sphinx. Right? You see the Sphinx part of the nose of the Sphinx brought up. It was Napoleon who did that, because he got an African nose on the Sphinx. This can't be African people. This can't be by African people. They have to build from, you know, people came from space and built this thing. Or these people have to be European who build it. They be Caucasians. People color can't build this stuff. All right, that's another discussion. Sorry. But what I'm saying, you know, that, you know, Yusuf, in taking the position, right, he is able to, this door of opportunity presents itself for him to now become the moral authority in the land, where he can actually not only set the standards, but he can reform the system. He can reform the system by providing guidance to the people, as the prophet, providing guidance to the people and giving da'wah and inviting them to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the way of truth, you know, and so establishing a system. As a matter of fact, there are reports that said that the king actually became a believer with Yusuf. There's some reports that said that the king became a believer, right? With the, you know, by being with Yusuf, he actually became a believer. There are actual reports that said that, right? So here, there's a lot to process in relation to this, inshallah. But I think we can continue the discussion in our next session, inshallah, because our time is up. And we go into the other ayah, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any quick question that anyone might have before we wrap up our session?
There's let me there's Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Last week there's a person who sent by WhatsApp asking a question about Gabe.
About
Gabe. Yeah, trying to understand where to place it. Let me read exactly what he or she said. I don't know if it's a he or she. He said, Assalamu alaikum, sheikhs. No. How many meanings does Gabe have? Do we translate it as we will, just to satisfy our agendas? And then the person brought two ayahs, which ذلك ليعلم أني لم أخوه بالغيب وأن الله لا يهدي كيد الخائنين. And then the other ayah, ذلك من أنباء الغيب نوحيه إليك وما كنت لديهم إذ أجمعوا أمرهم وهم يمكرون. How to, the person trying to how
yeah, right. The term guide it covers a number of points. Ghaib is that which is unseen and that which is not apparent, that which is hidden, and that which is new, and efforts, or that which is not present for people to see. So it covers all these things. That which is absent, that which is hidden, that which is unseen. All these are the connotations and understandings of the word ghaib. And those two verses, those two different ayahs that he quoted, Surah Yusuf, the one who was Surah Yusuf, that I did not betray him, that he might know that I did not betray him in his absence or when he was not present. That is the actual understanding or translation, correct, and that is correct, right? And then the other ayah about understanding the ghaib is understanding the unseen realities in a general context, right? And we, as part of our Aqidah, the belief of the Muslim, the Aqidah of Islam, it tells us that reality is not limited to what we can see or what is present for us to see and to experience. Reality is not limited to what we see and what is present before us or what we can touch or experience. Reality is greater than that. So that beyond what we can see and what is present and what is visible and what can be experienced by our senses, that beyond that reality extends way beyond that. Right? Reality extends way beyond that. And therefore, we as believers have to accept reality in its holistic approach. So we believe in the guide. We don't just believe in what we can see. We don't just believe in that which is present for us. The person who limits his acceptance of reality or limits reality to his awareness of what is around him, that person is absolutely limited, because there's so much that lies beyond his perception that is real. All right? So reality is not limited to our perception of it. It goes beyond our perception. So we believe that which is one of the logical understandings of reality, and therefore we as believers, one of the characteristics of the true believer is that he believes in the ghaibiyat, he believes in unseen realities. That's why Allah says, the first quality of the believers, the muttaqina, the God-fearing people, Allah says, alladhina yu'minuna bil ghaib, those who believe in the unseen realities. So our belief and our expectation and understanding does not end at the grave. It extends beyond the grave. It does not end in death. It extends beyond the grave and beyond death and the grave to the hereafter. Right? To the hereafter. Because we believe that is part of reality. It's just that it lies outside, is not present, is absent. It's absent from our vision. It's absent from our ability to touch it or to feel it. It's absent from our ability to experience it. But because it is absent from our ability to experience it or to see it or to know it, because it is absent from that, it does not mean that it does not exist. So if we say because we can't see it or we cannot experience it, it does not exist, we are saying that reality is limited to what I can experience. And if we don't experience it, then if you go on that basis, then reality will be different for everybody. But some of the things that I might experience, that I experience, that is not in your experience, I will believe in it, and it will be out of your experience, so you wouldn't believe it. So reality would be based on everybody's perspective of it. But reality has nothing to do with your perspective of it. Reality is as things are. Reality is as things are. It has nothing to do with your perspective of it. That's the reality. That's truth. And that's like truth. Truth is like that. Truth, the veracity of truth, right? The veracity of truth, or the truthfulness of truth, or the reality of truth is not dependent on whether somebody accepts it or don't accept it. For truth, if it is true, if you accept it, then you embrace truth. And if you don't accept it, then you have rejected truth, but truth remains truth. It doesn't change because you know, I don't believe it. It doesn't affect it. It's still true. It's just that you just cut yourself off from being from what is true. And truth is reality. All right. So without going too much, that's the reality. This is what we discussed in the lesson. Now.
Yeah, I was looking at a program with Joel Osteen, and he was telling the story, the same story, the story of Yusuf. And he mentioned that the king was of the lineage of the Ishmaelites, the Ishmaelite king. That King Aziz. That he mentioned that he was from the Ishmaelite. You know,
he was the king story. He was closely was one of the Amalekite people. It was Amalekites, not the Ishmaelites.
But
It was the Amalekites.
He would say it in a sense like he spoke down. His tone when he said it, like he spoke down of him, like you know, he wasn't a Jew or he was out the Israelite. The way in which he said it.
No, but the Egyptian kings, right? The Egyptian kings were not Israelites.
Not an Israelite, Ishmaelite.
Yeah, I'm saying no, but he saying that like if he's looking down on it. It's not like saying that that he was not an Ishmaelite, he was not Israelite king.
Yeah.
But the reality is that the kings of Egypt, they were not Israelites either. So what point is he trying to prove?
No,
Right? So I mean,
he just threw that out there. That,
yeah.
That an Ishmaelite, king of the lineage of Ishmaelite, he was coming with his caravan. And
he don't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah, we gotta look at the history, look at the stuff. You can't, you don't know what he's talking about.
The district like here decide to be a mayor or councilman. So like you were saying, if Islam society take position, you have to help them, right?
If it's benefit, if you guys benefit, and so as this we can go a little deeper into it in our next session. But there is benefit, and the benefit outweighs the harm.
Who you helping over?
Yeah? There's a benefit. You're helping the people. There's a benefit, yes. There's benefit. You can bring benefit. And so the benefit outweighs the harm. Yes. Because the whole key is to bring benefit and to limit harm. That's the Islamic position. One of the goals of Islam is to bring benefit and limit harm. So what if you can do that, which when you do, your actions can do that, then you need that's what you should do. You bring what is most beneficial and you stop what is more harmful. That'll make it easy for us. So we have some discussion. The discussion is a little deeper, so inshallah we continue this discussion inshallah next week.
What ayah was that you left off for?
55. Yeah, 55. 55. Yes, we did 54 and 55. So we start from 56 next week, inshallah. Thanks, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Yeah, last week, this thing went a lot more. Ooh, I forgot this is not. I have another computer for it, but I did not. Something wrong with it.